It's the All Things Strange podcast. I am your host, Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can find all of our wonderful links in the description on the Linktree, where you can find our Discord, where you can communicate with the show, our Patreon, our merchandise, and more. This week's episode, The Clinton Road. The Clinton Road is an interesting one. This was requested by our Patreon subscribers and voted upon as well. We've got 3 wonderful tiers for you. The first tier will get you early access and after hours. The second tier will get you bonus episodes. And finally, the top tier will give you the power to vote on upcoming episodes. That's right. You can decide what we're going to do next, and this is what they chose for this time. All right, well, let's get right into it. Unfortunately, this time, once again, it's just myself. Agent Ether is busy, and Agent ETA is also busy. So I'm just carving out a little bit of time here so I can do this. And it might be a little shorter than normal because it's just me, but let's do it. Let's talk about it. So the Clinton Road is a narrow, poorly maintained road in West Milford, Passaic County, New Jersey. So for those of you who may not be from the United States, New Jersey is on the east coast of the United States, and it is right next to New York. It borders New York. And this particular area is fairly close to that border. It's in the northern part of New Jersey. This area is fairly remote. Some people might call it the backwoods or BFE. We used to say BFE back in the day. Well, I don't even know what that means. It stands for Butt Fuck Egypt, but I have no idea where that came from. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Egypt, right? I don't know. It's such a strange saying. I don't know why we used to say that. But there are a couple of people who live in the area, a couple of houses out there. I don't know if they're vacation houses or year-round, probably a mix of both. So it's a little remote, and there's very light traffic most of the time, although you can take the road to get to New York from New Jersey, which some people do, but not very many. There are better routes to take. But still, it does get a little bit of traffic from time to time. The road itself branches off of Route 23, and it goes for about 10 miles when it ends in the Upper Greenwood Lake area, and it kind of turns into some other roads that continue on. There are some dangerous curves. The road itself is poorly maintained and very bumpy. At one point, it was kind of like a gravel road, or it wasn't really even paved, although I've read that more recently it has been paved. So it might not be as bad as some of the descriptions say. So who knows? Maybe it's perfectly maintained these days, and it's only in the previous decades that it's been dangerous to drive on. It's actually, believe it or not super far from Action Park in Vernon or Vernon Township, whichever. We did an episode on that thing, and we actually went there in person. Agent Redacted and I. It was really, really cool trip. One of the best trips I've ever taken. Our East Coast adventure. I believe we talked about that maybe in a bonus episode or something. I don't know. Anyways, the reason we're talking about the Clinton Road is, no, it's not haunted by the victims of the Clintons, as some people say. It's actually a haunted road, and there's no one particular incident that has made it haunted. It's just a very, very creepy area in general. And it's kind of strange because if you look at the area, there's a ton of roads that basically go right through the woods. But why this particular road? Why this one road? I don't know, but a lot of people say it's just creepy. There are a lot of haunted roads. We actually covered one before. I think it was in Halloween episode when I talked about the hairy hands of Dartmoor. So if you're interested in that, there's, I think it was last Halloween or something, or at least last October, we did I think it was in a spooky power hour. I'd have to check back. At some point you've done enough episodes where you start forgetting which one was what. Anyways, the Hairy Hands of Dartmoor is another haunted road. There are many, many haunted roads. Maybe I'll do another one in the future. Who knows? This road is sort of like a grab bag of the paranormal. It has everything. Well, nearly everything. It's got paranormal, cryptids, the KKK, satanic cults, witches, serial killers, or the mob. Apparently dispose of bodies in the area with at least one confirmed body, which was definitely a murder victim. Altars with sacrificed animals, pentagrams, red eyes staring out of the woods at night, the Jersey Devil, the works. This has anything and everything people have reported on Clinton Road. For those of you not familiar, I take it for granted that, not everybody knows everything about the United States. The KKK is an organization in the United States. They used to be, I think there's a lot more of them in the past. I think they've sort of dwindled. At least that's what it seems to me, but they're still around. Anyways, they're the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, and they're basically just a super racist organization that likes to wear white outfits with white hoods and do shenanigans in the woods. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they are just racist people, I suppose, and they don't like anybody. Unless you're white, then you're probably, you're probably all right, but they hate everybody else. So that's them. All right. This particular topic was popularized by Weird New Jersey, which is a publication covering all things strange in the state of New Jersey. They have a website that's really cool. You can go check it out and peruse it. They have articles on that website of many different topics, including this one. And they have forums where people discuss this kind of stuff. So if you want to expand upon what I look at for this episode, that'd be a good place to start. For example, I was in the middle of reading an article about Midgetville, the small wonders of Midgetville. No, just small wonders of Midgetville on weirdnj.com. That's their web address. And apparently in New Jersey, there's all these rumors of a midget colony and people try to find it. And that's what the article's about, which I think is kind of strange because they're just people that happen to be shorter than average, right? I mean, is there more to it than that? They don't really have magical powers like they do in the movies. They're just people. And if they have their own community in the middle of the woods, I'm guessing they don't want to be bothered. If that's true, I haven't gotten through the article yet. I don't know. So if you live in New Jersey, please leave them alone. What do we call is it midgets? I thought we were supposed to call them little people, or I'm not sure. I thought that we weren't supposed to use midget anymore, but that's the title of the article. So don't sue me if I'm not being politically correct, because it's not my fault. It's on the website. Anyways, that is an article I was reading right now just for, I don't know, I just clicked on it and there it is. But they've got a ton of stuff on there. It's a really great website, and they do have publications as well. So if you're interested in anything strange, I highly recommend it. Do they even have a podcast? I don't know. Let's see. Upcoming events, where to buy, Amazon, merch, stories, digital media. I'm not sure. I don't see a link at the top of their website for a podcast, but they might have one hidden around here somewhere. Anyways, check it out. Really awesome website. And they also have paper publications. Anyways, strange things have been happening on Clinton Road for many years, well before it was popularized by Strange New Jersey, or Weird New Jersey, excuse me. In 1905, for example, Percy Crayon, which, what the hell kind of name is that? Percy Crayon, like the Crayon, like the sticks you give the kids to draw with, right? Percy Crayon wrote, "It was never advisable to pass through the 5-mile woods after dark, for tradition tells us they were infested with bands of robbers and counterfeiters, to say nothing of the witches that held their nightly dances and carousels at Green Island, and the ghosts that then made their appearance in such frightful forms that it was more terrifying to the peaceful inhabitants than wild animals or even the Indians that often passed. That's totally how they spoke back then in 1905 on the East Coast. I have it on good authority that that's 100% true. But yeah, so I mean, this area has had a reputation for a long time. And I saw a picture, just a little aside. I don't know why this popped into my head right now, but I saw a picture of a lake in the area. There's a couple of lakes in the area, and it had like a raft in the middle of the lake. And I wonder if it was sort of tied. Some of them they'll tie the raft down, or does that moor it or whatever? I don't know what you would call that. Anchor the raft in the middle of the lake. And I saw it and I wondered if this is perhaps what influenced Stephen King's story. He has a short story called The Raft, where some teenagers go out to have some fun at the lake. They go swimming, they swim up to the raft, and then shenanigans ensue. Also, it's a short, I think in the Creepshow movie, Creepshow 1 maybe, they made a short of it as well. But I saw that picture of that lake and I thought, this has to be. I guarantee Stephen King was driving through this area and he got that idea. Well, I don't guarantee, but I wonder. It seems like it might be a good match. All right, so that's a little just brief background. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. So let's talk about some of the specific areas and incidents throughout the years. So this area is frequented by teenagers. They like to go there to party because it's remote enough to where they could go drink some beer, get up to some ruckuses or whatever kids call it these days, and cause trouble, but without getting in trouble. Maybe, although it is illegal to park and hike there without a pass or a permit, because I guess the area is owned by Newark for the water rights. You got all those people living in the city. They're going to need to get their water from somewhere. And this is one of the places. So anyways, kids love to go there and party. And one of the premier party spots, the number one destination for parties in New Jersey, used to be the Clinton Castle. This is a castle in the area. Well, they call it a castle, but it was really a mansion. It's unfortunately no longer there. It's just an empty field that's slowly being taken over by the wilderness. But it was at one time like an empty mansion, and then it was just stone walls because it had burned down. I saw some various descriptions of who burned it down and why, and there are so many of them that I'm not sure any of them are necessarily the truth. I think it might just be more of an urban legend type thing. But this is actually a mansion that was built by Richard Cross. The Cross family also called it Bearfort, and it was also called the Cross Mansion. Not a mansion that's pissed off, but a mansion where the Cross family lives. Also, the family not necessarily pissed off. Sorry, stupid joke. I can't help myself. Hey, I'm a dad. I am entitled to dad jokes. All right, get used to it. Anyways, it was built in, I think, from 1905 to 1907. It was completed in 1907. It was 3 stories high and had 40 rooms. Yep, so Richard Cross was apparently very wealthy. He was from New York, and he was from the upper crust of society. One of those rich dudes. I forget where he got his money from. I want to say it was like oil or something. I forget. I did not notate that in my notes, so we'll just have to guess. Anyways, it wasn't just the mansion, but he also built up stuff in the surrounding areas, various outbuildings like bakeries and, little stores or whatever to serve him. There was even like a gas plant for lighting back in the day when they used gas for lighting. That's insane. Yeah, I know it's a thing, but it's hard to imagine, right? There was a stone, actually, there still is, according to witnesses, a stone water tank for, I think they said the water tank's like 8 feet tall and 11 feet wide, something like that. There was a lake included on the property because it was like a bunch of acres. It wasn't just like the front yard and backyard like we are used to, most of us. It was, all of this, like 70 acres or something like that. So they owned the lake on that land, and there was a boathouse there, and on and on and on. There was it was almost like a little miniature town for all of the servants to live there while they did their duties, that they did whatever that might be, serving the family. Yeah, that's the life, huh? I have zero servants, unfortunately. Hey, I'm working on it, right? Maybe one of these days. And by working on it, I mean I buy a lottery ticket occasionally. That's how I'm working on it. All right. So nothing really weird happened while the Cross family lived there. And I forgot to mention the reason why Richard Cross moved there is because he was having some heart trouble. And his doctor said, well, you should move somewhere with a higher altitude, like 1,000 foot elevation or something, and that'll be better for your health. So Richard Cross said, all right, well, hey, what the heck, let's do it. So that's why he built this house out there in the middle of nowhere and moved his family out there. So anyways, they lived there happily for a while, and nothing happened that was weird that I could find while they lived there. Unfortunately, Richard Cross passed away in 1917, and the family sold the house to the city of Newark in 1919. And immediately you might be thinking what I was thinking, which is why in the H would the city of Newark want a mansion in the middle of friggin' nowhere? And I heard I read rumors that people who worked at the city, city employees, particularly higher up city employees, used the house as a party house. And you got to remember, this is like in basically the roaring 20s. I guess partying was what you would do back then. And it was probably also prohibition. Let me double check that. Prohibition. Oh, 1920. Okay, so prohibition era was 1920. 1919 was not yet, when they bought it, it was not yet prohibition, but it was a good purchase because prohibition, for those of you unfamiliar, is when they made alcohol illegal in the United States. So they had all of these, quote unquote secret places that you could go party and drink. You couldn't do it in the open like you normally, like normal people. You'd have to go do it, but pretty much literally everybody drank still. It was a very small minority that didn't. And the history of that is a little murky, but I remember reading somewhere that it was due to like everybody leaving for World War I or something. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. But anyways, they bought that and they partied in the 20s. Makes a little more sense why they may have purchased it, right? But at some point, like I said, it burned down, leaving just some stone structures. And this is where the teenagers would go to party because, I mean, come on, you have like this these ruins, these stone ruins. That'd be a badass place to go, like have a fire, drink some beer, make some s'mores. I'm a little jealous, man. When I was a teenager, we just went and partied at the beach, which wasn't much of a party because, you couldn't drink that easily because, it was so public. But then again, the beaches are pretty friggin' awesome here. We used to go to Newport Beach or Huntington Beach. Pretty sweet. I never realized how awesome the beaches were in Southern California because I lived there my whole life. I never realized how awesome the beaches were there until I moved to Northern California. And the beaches here, not as awesome, not nearly as awesome. So anyways, teenagers would go there and party, but also Satan worshipers apparently really liked the castle. Hikers like to hike there. Ghosts like to haunt there. And there's probably even some cryptids and UFOs there. What the hell? Why not, right? So the area over time became pretty trashed with lots of graffiti. A lot of the graffiti was racist stuff, which might have been done by actual racists or KKK people, but I don't think it would have been done by the KKK because they tend to be like a secretive organization and they want to do stuff in secret. They don't want to tell you, hey, this is where we're meeting. Let's go ahead and spray paint stuff. That's not typically how they operate. But I suspect some of the graffiti might be people who are just doing it for shock value, But anyways, we don't know. But there's some offensive graffiti there. There's a lot of trash from all the partying. I guess people don't clean up after themselves in New Jersey, you friggin' slobs. And so that's the general setting of the castle. Unfortunately, it was knocked down in 1988. It was deemed unsafe by the what does it call it? The Newark Water Commission or whatever it is. I forget the exact name. But by 1988, it was probably crumbling and it was probably in danger of falling over on people, particularly drunk teenagers who were probably climbing on these walls for fun. That's probably a thing that happened. So they knocked it down for safety reasons. So that's one of the areas that is often involved in some of these creepy stories. There's lots of ghost stories, lots of people saying, "Yeah, I was there and we saw some eyes glowing out of the darkness." It's probably just a deer, right? I don't know. So that is the castle. Another area on Clinton Road is called the Furnace. This is one of the key areas of interest that a lot of people have seen strange things at, or at which people have seen strange things, whichever. It's an old furnace, and people think that it's used for satanic worship and sacrifices, or druidic rituals and sacrifices. It's a remnant of the Clinton Iron Works, which opened in 1826. So we're talking pretty old here. And this one is supposed to be still there. And I think I saw it on Google Street View when I was driving through on my computer, because I live on the opposite side of the country. And you drive by and it has a landmark there on the map, and I think I saw it over there on the side of the road. It was like on the right side of the road from where I was coming, but I don't know if that was it or not. It just looked like some stone stuff. But anyways, the ironworks opened in 1826, but they closed in 1837. The ironworks and a surrounding town that was sort of built up around it. And I guess they had trouble with coal, getting a good amount of coal in the area to fire up their kiln or whatever they were doing. I'm not really sure. But that's what I read, is they went out of business because they couldn't get the fuel they needed. All right, now let's move on to another topic here: phantom cars and trucks, or ghost vehicles. There are many witnesses who say that they will sometimes see headlights not attached to a car. So they'll be driving by, and there's different versions of this, but they'll be driving along the road, and either they'll see disembodied headlights coming from the other direction and pass them, or they'll see headlights appear out of nowhere behind their car and follow them and then just disappear into nothing. So that's kind of weird. Sometimes the lights will chase them to the end of the road, like they'll get really close to the car and then they'll panic and drive fast and then they'll disappear into nothing. Other times they'll see ghostly vehicles that appear and disappear into nothing, that appear translucent, that will again drive towards them or behind them or even in front of them. There's a lot of different variations on this story. A lot of people have reported something like this. And I couldn't find like an origin story for this. A lot of the times there'll be like an origin story for why we're seeing this. I mean, I did come across one, a lady driving, I think I might have it further down on my notes, but a lady driving a Camaro that crashed at Dead Man's Curve. So I'm not sure if that's the origin story for all of these cars, but there's an awful lot of these car reports for, I don't know. I feel like maybe it's supposed to be just all of the people who have died on the road in traffic accidents, basically. And there are apparently a lot of traffic accidents on Clinton Road. All right, some people have reported seeing strange creatures in the area: monkeys, wolves, hybrid creatures, and some of these may be escaped survivors of the jungle habitat. It was sort of like an attraction, like a zoo, that was closed down in 1976. And there are rumors that they just let all their animals loose in the area when they closed down because they went out of business. I guess they weren't making enough money, bankrupt, that kind of thing. So there are rumors that that the park, instead of dealing with the animals, just turned them loose in the area. And there are also rumors that there were animal carcasses left behind on the grounds after they closed it, on the jungle habitat at the zoo. Like there was just they just left some dead animals. That one might actually be true, because I did find a little blurb that said that some of their animals, when they were moving out, had tuberculosis, so they euthanized them. But I don't know if they would have left the carcasses there. I mean, I guess if they're bankrupt anyways, they're just going to be like, well, what the hell? let's get as much as we can out of this place and just take off, eh? But also, though, some of the official story from this place is that the animals were all sold off and relocated to other places, which makes sense because if you have exotic animals, they are valuable. They're not easy to get, so it should be fairly easy to send them off somewhere else to, some other zoo is going to want them. But who knows? That's one of the things of Clinton Road, though, is strange animals and, that you might call cryptids that are, bizarre monkeys, even Bigfoot like creatures, or strange hybrid creatures and wolves. But I'm like, wolves, are those not indigenous to the area? I don't know. And as far as hybrid creatures go, I never really saw a good description of what made it weird. Why the hybrid creature would be weird. Is it like half man, half wolf? Is it like a monkey wolf? Is it I don't know, like a bunny monkey? Is it, I don't know, what hybrids of what? I don't know. It's just one of those things where it wasn't super clear, but that's one of the things reported on Clinton Road. So I am reporting it to you. Clinton Road also has, as you might imagine, a woman in white. The Woman in White is a very common ghost story where there's a ghostly apparition of a woman in white. And there are various types of interactions with this apparition. But basically, the story goes this is a bride trying to get to her wedding, and somehow she died on the road, maybe in a car accident, maybe she was walking. I don't know why she'd be walking to her wedding, but that's one of the stories I came across. But there are a lot of different stories as to why she died on Clinton Road. But basically, she came to an unfortunate end and she is trying to get to her wedding. And that's kind of the story behind that. It's a pretty typical ghost story that you see in a lot of different places. And you see it in Clinton Road as well. All right, one of the areas on Clinton Road is called Dead Man's Curve. There's an area where the road curves around a lake, and it's like a really big curve, like a really sharp curve, I should say. And it's kind of dangerous because if you're not familiar with the area and you're driving too quickly, it would be extremely easy to have an accident on this curve, and many people have had accidents. I was unable to find exact numbers, but the word on the street is that lots of people crash and die, and this could be where the all of these haunted cars are coming from, is Dead Man's Curve. There's a reason why they call it Dead Man's Curve and not Slightly Annoying Curve, right? Also, there are supposed to be animal sacrifices and devil worship happening in this area. There are certain stories, like, for example, devil worshippers sacrificed a large animal like a cow. They'll leave it in the middle of the road so that you have to stop your car. And then once you stop, they'll come out of the shadows, grab you, and use you as a sacrifice. My first question on that one is, if the witness here in this telling this story was used as a sacrifice, how did they tell their story? Maybe their friends saw them grabbed and ran and got away somehow. I don't know. It's a strange story. It sounds a little made up to me, but what the hell? Maybe there are devil worshippers, Satanists in the area, nabbing people and sacrificing them. Maybe it's just a symbolic sacrifice. They grab you from your car, they anesthetize you, they tie you up, and then not anesthetize you. I'm thinking of Tiger Brand coffee. It's they knock you out. What's the term for that? I don't know. My brain is cooking. Apologies. I am in the shed and it is hot out. I'm sweating out here, guys. But yeah, so they knock you out and they take you back to wherever they're doing their devil worshiping. They tie you to a stake, not on fire, but like kind of next to some fire. So you're kind of maybe a little toasty and uncomfortable, but it's not going to actually hurt you. And then they pretend to poke you with some sharp sticks, but they don't actually poke you. They don't want to hurt you. They pretend to kill you, maybe splash you with some animal blood or something, and then they let you go. So maybe that's what's going on here. I don't know. But maybe they're nice devil worshippers. There have been strange symbols found in this area, such as pentagrams, Nazi signs, an upside down cross with a hook on the bottom. And I looked that up because that sounds like a very specific symbol. And there is a symbol for Kronos or Cronus, Chronus or Kronos. There's two different spellings that has like sort of like a cross with the hook on the bottom. There's the god Saturn that also has a cross with the hook, and the band Blue Oyster Cult has sort of like a cross with the hook on it. I'm not sure what it means if it's upside down. Maybe it has some sort of devil worshiping association. If it was, then I didn't really find what that would be. I searched for it, but I didn't find a whole lot of information on the upside down cross with the hook on it. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. I think this is going to be uploaded to YouTube eventually, but right now it's audio only, and there's a reason for that. I'll talk about it in the off the hours. What am I can't talk. I'll talk about it in the after hours, probably why it's audio only and why I'm not doing a video this time. But all right, so let's move on with where were we? So yeah, strange hook on the bottom. People have seen in this area, people have seen bonfires at night in the distance, and witnesses have been chased by hooded people, in other words, the KKK. And there are so many witnesses saying that they saw the KKK in the area that it kind of makes me believe that at least at some point in the past, there was definitely KKK activity. Is there still KKK activity? I don't know. But at one point there probably was. And once again, for those of you unaware, one of the things the KKK does is they love burning a big wooden cross. I don't know what that is, what it means, why they do it. I have no idea. It's just one of the things they do. So if you're driving by and you see a burning cross in the distance, probably stay in your car, particularly if you're not white. Just keep on driving. That's one of the things they've seen in that area. And actually, to be honest, I've seen a lot of stories on Clinton Road in general, not just at the Dead Man's Curve, but in general, there's a lot of KKK stories for the whole, 10 or 11 miles or whatever. All right, here's a specific story that I found. Two friends were driving down the road at night and they saw a fire near the castle. They decided to check it out. So they pulled over, parked, got out of their car, and they were going to take a look, and they saw some KKK people hanging out around a bonfire. Now, remember, for those of you unaware, the KKK, they wear these pointed hoods. It's a pretty unique looking costume. It's unmistakable. There's nobody who wears anything like this except for them. So if you see these people, it's them, right? So some of them had shotguns, and they saw the two friends, and the leader told the leader told the friends to stop, and then the other KKK people chased after them with shotguns. Of course, the friends were not dumb, and they ran back to their car and they drove off with the hooded figures chasing them. That's pretty damn creepy. Shotgun wielding wackos chasing you through a forest. No thanks. I will take a pass on that myself. That is why I am not a big fan of the wilderness. The wilderness sucks. That's why we have houses. If the wilderness was so awesome, we would live in it, but we don't. So stay out. That's my motto. All right. So there have been a lot of sort of satanic things found in the area. Like people have found and even taken pictures of rocks that have been arranged in like a pentagram. There have been people who have found what looks like altars, people that have found dead animals that look like they've been sacrificed, that died not of natural causes, but of being murdered, the poor things. So if there is indeed high activity of satanic rituals going on with animal sacrifices and all that stuff, that could very well explain all of the paranormal stuff going on, or at least some of it, right? If they're summoning demons or ghosts or I don't know, whatever they get up to. I have no idea what Satan worshipers actually do, But if they are in the area doing that stuff, maybe that could cause some of the paranormal happenings, red eyes glowing out of the darkness and that sort of thing. Witnesses have reported hearing a chanting in the distance, hearing screams in the distance, finding satanic symbols at different places, and in general, just getting a creepy feeling like they're being watched by some sort of otherworldly entity. You know the feeling. You've probably had it before. I know I have, where you just get this crawling feeling where you feel like somebody's watching you or something is watching you. Ugh, no thank you. All right. On one report, the crew that was sent to demolish the castle, they demolished it and then they found a section of the castle that was like underneath, kind of like a basement, but there were no access points. It was just like an empty space under the house. And they found like satanic symbols on the wall in there and on the walls. And nobody's quite sure how that could have happened because there was no way to get in there or out of there. So how did those symbols get on the walls? Maybe Maybe it was built like that, and the Cross family was actually a family of devil worshippers, and they did it on purpose like that, right? I don't know. There's another story from from way back in the 1970s where a group of friends went camping in the area of the castle, and they saw words written in red on the wall, and they weren't sure if it was blood or paint or what, but the words written on the wall were a direct quote from the Satanic Bible. And they know this because they wrote down the words. I think it was like in French or something. They wrote it down and were later on able to identify what it was. And there was also a plywood that had some like sort of like commandments written on them, like do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. When walking in open territory, bother no one. If somebody bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. Just really weird stuff like that written down on there. And this witness actually took photographs of these things. So you can actually find these online. You can find pictures of this stuff. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily, let's just play devil's advocate, pun intended. Is that even a pun? I don't know. But let's just play devil's advocate here and say that this witness drew that stuff and then photographed it. That is a possibility, so we can't rule that out. But there are photographs of this, which makes it pretty cool. It's not just a story. It really happened, apparently. Another group of people saw a bowl with 5 spots of melted wax in it, kind of like there were 5 candles, and like in a pentagram shape, and they found a pentagram made from rocks in the castle area. All right, so there is a little bit of mafia activity that happened in the area for sure. We don't know how extensive this is, because obviously the mafia is going to be pretty stealthy. If they weren't, then they wouldn't be around for so long, right? But there have been many reports of the mafia dumping bodies in the area, and that, once again, that could explain all of the ghost-like activity that happens in the area, or, the creepy feelings or whatever. One idea I saw was that if the body was found, it wouldn't be investigated by the New York police. It would be investigated by somebody in New Jersey, so it wouldn't necessarily be connected to the mob. I don't really buy that too much because law enforcement, they're not stupid. They're not going to be like, oh, here's a dead body. We're in New Jersey, not New York. So even though this looks like a mob hit, like this body literally has, a 22 bullet hole in the back of his head and cement shoes on and all that stuff, we're just going to go ahead and call it like an accidental death because we're not New York cops. I don't think so. That doesn't sound very reasonable to me. So I'm not buying that one. But that is one of the things I read in multiple different places. Here's a quote from Wikipedia I'll just read it. On May 18th, 1983, the body of Daniel Deppner was found when a cyclist riding down Clinton Road in a wooded area of West Milford, New Jersey, spotted the corpse being eaten by a turkey vulture. The body had been wrapped inside a green garbage bag before dumping it. Richard Kukliniski was charged and convicted of his murder. So that's cool. They found the murderer. That seems, I mean, seems like it'd be pretty difficult to find evidence on a body that's just dumped out in the middle of nowhere, right? There are different versions of this story. For example, in one version, it was only the head was found, and the cyclist was cycling by, and some turkey vultures flew out that caught his attention. So he looked over where they came from, and he saw the head that was being eaten by the vultures. There's other versions as well, but that's the Wikipedia version, so it must be true, right? But anyways, we do have that one guy who was apparently killed by the mob. So that we do have one confirmed body dumped there for sure, and there might be others. I don't know. All right, let's get to some paranormal stuff. This is what we're here for, right? There was a group of people driving when they saw a pair of pants walking by itself on the road. The witness said that it was like really, really terrifying for some reason. Just, could you imagine that? You're driving and you see some disembodied pants walking down the road. Are you going to freak out and go, oh my God, disembodied pants? Oh, drive, get out of here. I'm so scared. Maybe some people would, but I'll tell you what I would do. I would get out of the car and capture them, because how convenient would that be if you had pants that walked by themselves? You could just throw those suckers on and walk down to the grocery store or whatever and just have them walk you back. You wouldn't have to exert any effort. It'd be the coolest thing ever. It'd be like having a bicycle or something. I don't know. But, but this story reminds me of the Fresno Nightcrawler. I think we talked about the Fresno Nightcrawler on a previous cryptid episodes. I'm pretty sure. Uh, Go look at a video of that one if you're not familiar with the Fresno Nightcrawler. Pretty good story. One of my favorite cryptids, if not my favorite. Maybe second only to boogers and the Mothman. I don't know. Anyways, many witnesses, like a ton of witnesses, report that they feel a presence in the area, like an oppressive feeling, or like a supernatural presence, or the feeling that somebody is watching them. And some of these witnesses say that this feeling followed them after they left the area. It followed them home and would reoccur from time to time. Basically, your hitchhiker effect, right? So that's been reported by a ton of people. That's probably the most common thing reported from Clinton Road. There's a ton of people, if you go look around the interwebs, who say, yeah, I didn't see anything weird. I didn't see any ghosts or running pants or any of this other stuff. But when I was in the area, I felt like somebody was watching me. And that's the most common thing you'll see. At least that's the most common thing I saw when I was looking into this case. All right, another story. Witnesses in the area, they were there hanging out, I guess, and they heard a strange gulping noise after they had stopped near the lake. One of the witnesses started yelling, and then the sound got closer, and then it sounded like it was inside of them, like a gulping noise, like a gulp. Trying to imagine like that being scary. I guess it'd be really scary if it didn't have an apparent source. It just gulp, gulp, gulp. Also might be kind of funny depending on exactly how it sounded. I don't know. But sounding like it's coming from inside of you, that is pretty creepy. So they got back into their car and sped away. And as they ran to their car, they heard the sound of children laughing. So maybe it was just some children goofing around with the loudspeaker, like a bullhorn. I don't know, maybe. All right. Another witness story here from Clinton Road. Once upon a time, a witness was driving on the road with some friends at night. It was a nice night out, not cold at all, but when they got to Clinton Road, it started snowing. That's it. Short story, kind of weird. They were just cruising around the area, and when they got to Clinton Road, they were driving on the road, and it started snowing out of nowhere. This is a higher elevation, so that's possible, I guess, but they said it wasn't cold out. So it's kind of weird. Paranormal? I don't know. You be the judge. Definitely seems weird. All right, next up. This is one of the big ones. One of the big ones, guys. One of the most commonly talked about areas on Clinton Road, the Ghost Boy Bridge. This is a bridge near Dead Man's Curve, and if you put a quarter on the road at midnight, or you throw it over the side into the water, or maybe, nail your friend in the head, in the forehead with it, or whatever, there's different variations on it, but basically, you do something with a quarter, you basically throw it away, throw it into the water, or whatever, a ghost of a boy will return it to you, sometimes by throwing it, sometimes by throwing it really hard at you, sometimes pushing you off the bridge. The story goes that the ghost of the boy, or the boy before he was a ghost, I should say, died somehow by drowning in the water. Maybe he was swimming in the area. Maybe he fell off the bridge when he was waiting for some friends to pick him up. Maybe a car hit him while he was sitting on the edge of the bridge for some reason. Maybe the car lost control and smashed into him. There is one story where the boy saw a coin, like a quarter, in the middle of the road, bent over to pick it up, and because it's basically right there near the bend of the road, oncoming traffic didn't see him and ran him right over. There's a lot of variations on this story, and those are some of them. But the basic idea is that you toss some coins over the bridge, and sometimes they are returned to you, sometimes nicely, other times they are thrown back with force. Sometimes people will say that they threw something out of their window from a car that was moving. So not that they didn't stop, but as they drove by, they throw some coins out of their window. And sometimes the coins reappear inside of their car. Sometimes the coins are dropped on top of their car and make a coin dropping sound on metal or whatever. Sometimes they're thrown at the windshield. Sometimes they're thrown at the occupants of the car from inside of the car. There's a lot of variations on this one. Sometimes if you throw a coin into the lake, it'll appear on the road. That's another variation. Okay. Let's see. Another variation is that if you stand on the bridge, a quarter will appear, and if you try to pick it up, the ghost boy pushes you off of the bridge into the water to save you from being hit by a car. So, did I say that one already? I don't know. I forget. So that's one of the more commonly things discussed. If you talk about Clinton Road, you will hear about the Ghost Boy Bridge. All right. I think I talked about Dead Man's Curve. I don't know why it is here in my notes twice. I guess I must have been going brain dead. All right. Next up, the Ghost Camaro. Apparently, a driver was going too fast and died by crashing her car on Dead Man's Curve. Wouldn't it be Dead Woman's Curve then? I don't know. Sometimes you can see her car driving in the area at midnight. I'm sure that this is the only Camaro in the world, so there's no chance that some other Camaro is driving down the road. Nope, no Camaros ever drive down Clinton Road, only the Ghost Camaro. But that's one of the stories, is that Ghost Camaro will appear, follow you, sometimes appear in front of you, sometimes come in the opposite direction of the direction you're going. A lot of variations on this one as well. All right, another story of the paranormal type. A group of guys and gals were driving on the road, and the driver kept putting the car in neutral and revving the engine. Maybe it was like a manual transmission. They used to make manual transmissions back in the day when you could put it into neutral, and then you could rev the engine like it was no big deal, right? It wasn't a problem. And the driver kept saying that it was ghosts messing with the car to freak out the girls who were with them. One thing led to another, yada, 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 and the transmission blew out. So they had to pull the car over and walk back for help. When they came back to the car, there were axe holes in the roof of the car and the tires were flat. Now, they didn't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure this story would be a manual transmission, which would mean your transmission you're not going to blow it out by revving your engine because it's not even really hooked up to the transmission. I guess if you were driving somewhat quickly and you accidentally put it into like first gear at, let's say, 50 miles an hour, then maybe you could blow out your transmission. But I don't think they were doing that here. That'd be a newbie mistake to make. Somebody who's used to driving a manual transmission would not make that kind of a mistake. But I don't know. It's kind of an unusual thing, unusual story. Who knows? Did a ghost put the axe holes in his roof? Maybe a local, somebody who lives there, who's sick of teenagers causing trouble and leaving trash behind, even a car, got fed up and went and smashed up the car, or devil worshippers? Who knows? Could be anything. The story of the Ghost Rangers. In this story, some people were camping when late in the night, sometime after midnight, like 2 or 3 in the morning, two park rangers came by and then they talked to the rangers about their campfire, some other topics, just basically shooting the shit. And they asked the rangers if it was okay to park where they were. Said, "Hey, are we okay? Is it okay to park there?" The rangers said, it's fine. You can park there. No big deal." The next day, when they woke up, they saw there were a couple of police officers ticketing their car. So they told the police officers, they say, "Hey, we asked a couple of forest rangers and they said that we could park here." The police said that there hadn't been any rangers in the area for a really long time. And the description they gave to the police sounded like two park rangers who had died in the area way back in 1939. So that's kind of an interesting story. I didn't see a date for that story for when it happened, but it's a modern story. Well, I shouldn't say modern, but I mean modern-ish as far as like it probably happened in the 70s or 80s or something like that. Not like, 1930s. Next up, we've got a disembodied hand. So apparently there was a fight. And during this fight, one thing led to another. And as sometimes happens in a fight, a man got his hand cut all the way off. No, that never happens. What are they talking about? That's never happened. People don't get their hands cut off in a fight. That's so weird. Anyways, there's a fight. Dude gets his hand cut off. And the hand can sometimes be seen wandering around the road, kind of like in the Addams Family or maybe the 1963 movie called The Crawling Hand. And I haven't seen this, but believe it or not, my dad has told me about this. This would be more of my dad's generation. But 1963 movie, which my dad said was actually absolutely scared the crap out of him when he was a kid. But here's a synopsis from Wikipedia for The Crawling Hand. An astronaut coming in for a crash landing makes odd statements over the radio, including, My hand makes me do things. Kill. Kill! Strangely, by then, ground control was under the belief that he was already out of oxygen. Later, Paul, a naive student, discovers a disembodied hand near the crash site and takes it home as a grisly souvenir. He is not aware that the hand is possessed by a strange, murderous alien. So, so that's the beginning of the plot synopsis. I don't want to read any more in case you guys want to watch it, but the movie is exactly what you would expect from that description, right? It's a very schlocky B movie. So I might watch it someday. It sounds absolutely awesome. It sounds like an amazing movie. There's another movie called The Beast with Five Fingers. That sounds like a sexual position of some kind or something. I don't know. It sounds nasty. I don't know. But anyways, this one's from 1946. There's a movie called The Hand from 1981. There's a bunch of stories involving a disembodied hand. So this story, I feel like, is just like a tall tale or a ghost story where somebody said that they saw a hand on Clinton Road, and they just basically stole the idea from a movie, because movies with disembodied hands have been around for a very long time. All right, next, there's a story about a couple that was swimming in a pool at the bottom of a waterfall. And people have said that unfortunately, the pool in question, somebody has cut down a bunch of trees and put them in the pool, so you can't really swim in there anymore. Somebody said that that was done on purpose by the people who manage the area so that people would stop injuring themselves there. I don't know. But anyways, this is before that happened. So a couple was swimming in a pool, and the dude climbed up, uh, I guess climbed up the waterfall area, like the cliff area, dove off into the pool, and when he came up, he saw a man with a dog and a black cloth over his head standing at the top of the waterfall. But there isn't really any other access besides like climbing up from the side. I guess there's probably you could probably get there from a back access somehow. But anyways, the witness says that it would be impossible for the man to get up there unnoticed because he would have had to see him climbing up the hill or the cliff face or whatever. He yelled at the man who just stood there looking at the couple. So the man yells to the wife who is sitting on the opposite shore from where their car's parked. He says, "Swim across, let's get the heck out of here." So she swims across, and then the man swims across because remember, he's in there because he just dove in there from the top where the waterfall is. So they go back to where their bikes are, and I guess they rode their bikes there, and then they drove there and then rode their bikes to where the waterfall is from their car. So they go back to where their bikes are, they swim back over there, and while they're on the way there, they get to their bikes, and then they hear a goat screaming, and they hear some loud whispering voices, like many voices all surrounding them, all around them, whispering loudly. That is creepy. They also heard a crackling noise of some kind. They got on their boxes. They got on their bikes and rode like the wind out of the area back to their car. Pretty dang creepy. I have heard screaming farm animals before, and they are terrifying. So no, thank you. Once again, this is why we need to stay out of the wilderness and stay in our homes and watch some crap on whatever your favorite streaming service is. All right. Next up, there's been a handful of UFO sightings I was able to find. Not that many, but there have been a couple of orb sightings. So the first one that I found was there's a group of witnesses. They saw an orb of light hovering and flickering over the lake at Dead Man's Curve. It stayed still for a moment, and then it shot off straight up in a streak of light. And when it shot up, it lit up the entire area. So that one's pretty cool. It's just, to me, it sounds like your typical orb UFO sighting. I've seen a lot of sightings similar to this. Another witness said that they saw a light moving up a mountainside where there was no road, and it was moving faster than a person could walk, but slower than a car might drive, interestingly enough. When the light got to the top of the mountain, it went up into the sky. It didn't say exactly how fast, but you get the impression that it shot up into the sky. Pretty weird. Another witness reported seeing multiple colored orbs while they were driving slowly on the road. They saw hundreds of these orbs all surrounding their vehicle, and the orbs followed their vehicle. So when the driver sped up, the orbs would keep pace, and when they slowed down, the orbs would slow down with them. And they saw these orbs like surrounding the car, front, back, left, right, all around them. And then the orbs suddenly vanished. Of course, the witness was a little freaked out by this. There's actually another story. I've heard one other story like that, but that's a different matter entirely. All right, well, those are the stories I kind of have. Is any of this real? I don't know, man. There's an awful lot of stories. The ones I've notated here, that's just a small handful of the available witness accounts you can find online. Are there genuine? I believe there are some genuine experiences here. I believe that probably some cult worship has taken place in the area from time to time. I believe also there have been a lot of people who have told stories. You know, they say, I was there and I saw this, even though they didn't, tall tale kind of stuff. Probably there have also been hoaxers out there to scare people. I mean, come on, let's get real. If you have a group of friends, or let's say a large party being thrown in the area, from a particular high school, Some prankster gets word of it and they're like, all right, everybody's going to go up to the castle to party tonight. Maybe they go buy a mask and paint it with some glowing paint and they scare the shit out of people, right? I mean, I could see that happening. I think that's plausible. So I think some of these sightings might be genuine experiences, but they might also be hoaxes of some kind, just to scare people, which, pretty funny if you think about it. Many witnesses did report being chased out of the area by what could be devil worshippers or KKK members, things like that. So that does seem to be a genuine experience as well. Or maybe just pissed off locals who are sick of all these kids partying and trashing the area. But I did find this letter on weirdnj.com. Here's some excerpts from the letter, and this is pretty interesting stuff. I grew up in West Milford, Newfoundland. My backyard is the Newark watershed property, and the castle is a mere 50-yard stroll from the back door. I have often been amused by the many tales regarding this area. For 30 years, my siblings and I have made this our playground. Now that's an interesting way of wording it, almost as if these might be the people responsible for the hoaxes. Oh yes, for 30 years this was our playground. Not this was our playground when we were children, but this has been our playground for 30 years. To me that highly suggests that they are scaring the shit out of partying teenagers, right? Playing tricks on them. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. Anyways, another section from the letter. I am sorry to dispel the mystery of Clinton Road, but the residents of the area are tired of the vandalism to and trespassing on our own properties because of the stories. There are no hellhounds. Unfortunately, this road has been a popular spot for dropping off unwanted litters of cats and dogs. So that was just a really interesting letter, and it does make a certain amount of sense, and it kind of puts it in a different light. And there are a lot of letters like this, people saying, look, I've lived here for a while, there's nothing weird happening, please just leave us alone. I have a couple of thoughts about that. First of all, I suspect that some people are more attuned to the supernatural than others. I think some people, it's easier for them to experience these things. Maybe their psychic antenna is up. Also, if you lived in the area, whether or not there was paranormal stuff going on, you would probably tell people to stay out because let's face it, if these teenagers come and they leave a friggin' mess every time, you don't want to deal with that, right? You don't want your beautiful wooded area to be trashed. That's not good. But all right, well, those are all my thoughts. And looks like we went about an hour, more or less. We'll see how it ends up after the edit. But I was a little worried this one was going to be short because it's just me, myself, and I. But it looks like it turned out to be a decent sized episode, a decent length episode anyways. But all right, well, that's all I've got for you today on the Clinton Road. Super creepy area. I did not know about this when I was in New Jersey. I was ignorant to the existence of this, but the next time I go to New Jersey, if I ever go again, maybe I'll hit up the Clinton Road and see what happens. I'm not going to go trash the place. I'm just going to drive through the road maybe at midnight just to see what happens. I'm not going to cause any trouble for the people that live there. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank everybody so much for listening. Do all the fun things that help out the show. Tell your friends, give us a like, subscribe. If this is on YouTube, then let me know what you think. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything I messed up? Do you have any opinions? Let us know below. And until next time, keep it strange.